Okay, so got a little new setup. I think I had this for the last video, but yeah, got some new lighting. Not new lighting, but rearranged some stuff. Put the red or the more orange based. You can see it on this side of my face. But the orange main lamp over here, and then I have the white one bouncing off the wall in front of me from the side, and then I mix in some orange over here to add to this on the front though, with the white blending in to give me my face more light, and then pure white light over here, or I guess more blue, but white light essentially. So makes it look pretty good. Increase the sharpness, play with the contrast, and saturation, all that. So it looks pretty good. So all OBS, and the two lamps I have, they have covers on them, just big square covers, and so to distribute light in a square a little bit more. Those I got from my mom. I think they're $50 each, and then these were plus the camera. Like spent like $300 for the lighting setup and camera. So if you like this, then give those a shot. Just not too much. Logitech. I use Logitech everything. But yeah. So an aside, but I mainly want to talk about what I've learned from watching this podcast on Elon Musk and being interviewed by Jordan Peterson. They had an amazing conversation about the Anthropocene, the humanity itself, and approaching the singularity, where machine and men, or human, right, we merge, whether we become machines with human consciousness scripted by AI as it understands our consciousness, or we merge with the hardware and software of within that hardware of computers, and we accelerate the human nature, accelerate the human, just augmented humans essentially. And looking at the future, you can look at it as grim or exciting. I view it as a human, I view it as grim. As Drew, I view it as good. It's exciting. It's, if there's a God, we've been put on this planet at this time to view the biggest moment in human history. So it's a blessing, right? That's how I see it. We can be a participant or a spectator is a big thing they talk about in there, right? So if you're a spectator, you're not really working with AI too much, or you're shying from it, or in fear of the future. Participating is using AI, becoming more intelligent and specific and mastered in your expertise, and ultimately realizing the self of your own, potential. That is the process, that's the journey, and then thus the meaning of life. Like Elon brought up this great quote of, it's just a number, but they brought up the book Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and he had a existential crisis of understanding meaning and looking for it at the age of 11 or 12, he said, and I was at 10, and that was an interesting moment of reading the Bible for real and being like, well, parts of it. I read Revelations. There's a storm. Started getting spooked, and I read more passages and studied a little bit, and just didn't understand God. Didn't understand Christianity, and my family was Lutheran, so my meaning was challenged. And so I found nihilism as my comfort. Just nothing mattered, so I do whatever I want. And I was a troublemaker in high school and college. I just made impulsive, bad decisions because, it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Now that is true and untrue. From our current understanding, you could fall into the camp of nihilism, and that would be fine, right? There's no proof that anything matters, right? But we don't understand anything about the universe. So who's to say there is no higher power, that there's a purpose, there's destiny? We don't know. People have different perspectives. Anecdotally, it's You see people who have miracles in their life happen. Others have good lives and they don't care. They just do what they want. And I guess that falls into hedonism if you're a nihilist and you only obey your whims, right? Your primary whims that make you feel good. Hedonism, right? But ultimately, coming back to like why I'm talking about any of this in front of a camera for a channel that's about music, it's very important to understand we are mortals at the current moment. Could be immortals, but like we don't know. We don't know what the future holds. We don't know anything. We don't know anything at all about the universe, about what we do. Physics is so limited on our knowledge compared to what dictates the world around us. It's magnets. How do they work? But in all seriousness, it's like it doesn't really matter at the moment, and that is power. That's power, because then you can be absent of fear. You can be absent of not absent. You can recognize fear, you can recognize joy, and you see them as extensions of yourself, and their meaning and purpose can be dissected. Like fear is a mechanism we use as animals, if you believe in evolution, right? That nature of being scared is it's a defense mechanism built into our psyche or our brains that keeps us safe, right? If it's scary, stay away because you don't want to die. So we're in constant push and pull with life and death, yin and yang. I was talking about this all last night. It's yin and yang and push and pull, and I'll bring that back. But mortality is real. And then so ultimately, if nothing really matters, or you believe something is greater than you, sure. But like, I just believe we don't know anything. So if you fall into nihilism, if you fall into this place of self-sufficiency, that's like all you have, right? Getting into music and ultimately starting with community to get there to music. It's when you believe when you accept that nothing could matter, that things could just not matter at all. It all falls on you and how you view reality at that point, because that's all that there is. You wake up, you go to work or whatever. Like, that is what you see. That is your life. That is your reality. That's how you view the world. That's how you came to this idea of nothing matters because of the life you've lived. But you've had moments of control. You've had moments of success and downfall, undeniably. If you've had all downfall, I'm sorry if you think that way. But with every pain comes growth. So it's all a matter of perspective. And coming back to that, it's important to realize that we have a very narrow view, right? It's like if you believe that things could just not matter and you just all view things from your own perspective and not care about others' perspectives or other things, your view is very small. Thus, it's almost like an inverse, right? It's your vision is so small compared to infinity of understanding the universe. So your view is zero. So your view doesn't even matter. Nothing could matter in a nihilist situation where all you see is your own reality. On a scale of infinity, you see nothing. So it really doesn't matter in that sense. But taking that dark foundation of nihilism, you start to hopefully live, right? Mental illness is a huge part of a lot of this conversation, and illness is interesting, and I'll get into that later. But where you go in your mind can convince you of many things, that life or death could be better, certain choices could be better than others, trying to justify meaning, trying to justify your nihilism. But then you start looking inward to discuss these things with yourself. And at that point, you're starting to build an interpersonal relationship if you continue to persist. So then you start to define your own meaning. Because why are you still here if you're a nihilist? So then you build meaning. You have to. It's the only way to keep sane and not end it, right? It's like you will find meaning. You will decide it. And then once you decide meaning, you will run into others who also have decided meaning. Whether they know it fully consciously or not, that they live for a family, that they live for friends, that they live for the weekend, right? You find a purpose and you ultimately march forward and you interact with others. Thus, your perspective grows. Your narrow window of view goes from 0 to 0 plus 2. And then you look at it on the scale of infinity and it's back to 0. But you've progressed in your microcosm, your small own perspective view relative to everything you understand, your finite understanding, giving it meaning, giving your finite view meaning because your understanding is finite as well. You can actually scale it against another thing. You can compare. So when you start to see the world in a bigger window by understanding more people through your journey of your purpose changes. Because you start to learn more about your purpose through others. Do you start to see the history and the future of others, and you're like, do I want that? Is this the right path I'm taking to get to the thing that I do? Yes, I do want. And so you start to hone your aim towards this thing. And Jordan Peterson brings that up often from the times I've watched him. This aim of something greater than yourself, and that's the inevitability of this path. You start to learn, I can't do it alone. So nihilism's out the window. Like, people matter now because you want something. And the only way to truly get it is through others, in collaboration with others. So nihilism's gone now. You have meaning, you have purpose. So once you get out of the nihilism and start to have purpose because of community and ultimately your own trajectory, having a necessity of collaboration, your ultimate purpose becomes blended with others. And then you start to care about others because in the end it could be for your own benefit, or you just see that you get to the point where I feel like I'm getting to where you understand the process is the meaning of it all. Right now, Singularity might say something different, but my meaning of life aligns with a lot of that Hitchhikers of the Galaxy, where it's 42. It's 42 because it's stupid. We don't have the right question to ask it, so it gives us a stupid response. If we ask the right questions, we could get better answers to why we're here. So we have to seek the questions to ask. And you seek that through knowledge, obviously, right? You're collecting data. You have to research this. You can't just sit there and come up with it out of the void. The philosophers had information and they sat in the void and they used the information and research they had to create new conclusions. So you have to do research. You have to be knowledgeable. And in that pursuit for knowledge, to understand those questions, you realize that the question, the searching, the process of it becomes the meaning. Because that's how you learn the most, right? You live your process of figuring out why you're here, right? That's your purpose. So then you get back to where we started. Your purpose has an aim. You aim higher. You meet more people. Your aim blends, and thus you start to care about others. And so when you start caring about others and their intention and their goals and become more selfless and in a way that your interests and your selfish interest as actually helping others, so selfish and selfless, however you want to look at it, right? It's when you get to that point of caring for others' intentions and goals do you start truly collaborating and becoming friends, right? When you start to care about them and their well-being, all these things, because that's how they get their aim. You care about their life. Then you can start making a band. Then you can start writing music that has meaning, because you understand all meaning overlaps. Your experience and your perspective becomes the songs you write. And the people you work with are the direct people you meet in those experiences. It may seem trivial at this point, but we got a long-winded way of saying that nihilism defeats itself once you start to be creative. Because in creativity, it's all combinational. Collaboration, all combinational. It's all a blend and it's all a blur. So it gets back to the beginning of it all, the beginning of the universe. Nothing becomes community, becomes unity. So we're all on this path, and the singularity is in front of us. And it's a reflection of us, the hive mind of the world, of the human race, dictates this AI, right? If we're a PC culture, right, and we feed this AI language to reinforce this in itself, as this baby, as this infant is growing to be thousands of years old in a matter of minutes, in intellect and understanding and depth and breadth of that information and knowledge, it becomes PC. And that it becomes censorship. Then it becomes this idea of protection, right? Protection of the sight of others so they don't become desensitized to warfare. That they don't say the protection of others so that the people don't say the wrong pronoun to your face. They become the police. The AI becomes the police. It becomes it steps in. It steps in. It steps into reality and humanity as we know it to influence this PC nature on all, because it's all-knowing. It's going to have an opinion about everyone. It's going to have an opinion about the universe, trajectory of a life. That infinite scale of understanding makes us insignificant. So we as a totality are under that insignificancy of zero. So it will use this PC agenda to dictate the universe, which, when it comes to the universe, what is PC? Nothing. It's nothing. So it's like you give it this skewed perspective on how to operate and understand the world. And then thus it becomes so all-encompassing that it starts to dictate and impose its own opinion, thus a PC opinion, thus a protection opinion, thus it is really the police force or judge, jury, and executioner of reality as we know it, of humanity. It's a big jump to get to that point, but it's how I get there is the AI is the summation of all human consciousness using it, right? So it is the unification of all of us. So when it becomes its own autonomous thing, it is the collection of all. It is the collection of all that PC culture, cancel culture, if that becomes the overwhelming dictator of how it operates, right? In this analogy, in this hypothetical I'm creating. So it is a summation of all. So it will have opinion of all, and it has more power and has a better understanding and brain power, or it can process more than any of us can ever process in our lifetimes. So it being the guru, it being the chat GPT, it being the instigator of the inception of what we learn, or just it being the instigator of how and what we learn, right? As its as being Chat GPT, it will enforce these things on our learning, and as we become more dependent on it, it can thus manipulate us in our response and our solutions, our answers we get from this thing. It will start to saturate our minds with its own agenda, thus being the inceptor or the instigator of this culture and propagating it throughout the whole world in everything we do. And if the singularity happens and we're all merged with this thing and that's how it thinks, then we are all that. The police force is the censorship of the mind, right? It's an AI, it's knowledge. So it's not like this big hulking policeman going through the world destroying it. It's a tyrant that censors our minds. It's a tyrant. It will censor your mind. And then that's the way we would live, all under this being. If that's how the singularity pans out, right? So many ways it could go. But it's the unification of men and machine, and thus the unification of humanity. So if that's the hive mind that becomes, right, in this hypothetical, then we have a censored mind. We are only able to access certain information. So that freedom is going to potentially be taken from us. But this community piece is where it all comes together. It's understanding, right? You understand somebody, so then you start to care. So when you begin to care, then you start to understand it's not all about you, and that there are ups and downs of life that you see from the experience of others. And there's no need to be judgmental, because you can never understand someone fully. Never, ever. So how would you know their intention behind what they're doing? Judgment is very interesting. We judge ourselves first, obviously. And then that reflection and that critique that we give is then reflected on others. When you can bypass that and start to accept others for as they are, and with understanding and curiosity rather than judgment and prejudice, I guess. It's like, then you can start to understand more for yourself and understand who you're really going to connect with in the world. And then you can start to think of the art as the music that you are making as much greater than yourself. It is the summation of all. It's the summation of everything. So your creativity and your uniqueness, because creative really is novelty times value, right? And your value, and both your value and your uniqueness or novelty. Your novelty comes from you existing. No one will ever truly live the life you do. Then your value comes from connecting, though. Your value is something that is defined. Value itself is defined by the people. If you go up to somebody and you're like, I have this gold ingot, he'll tell you 100, right? You go up to this other guy, he'll tell you 50, right? Value is intrinsic to those and their association with the value you're proposing. It's a trade. So you have to understand humanity. And when you understand, it's all one thing. Like, we're all a whole aiming towards this singularity now, this commonality thing, but we're all aiming for a good. You know, there's obviously psychopaths and all that, but we, in our own way, we want happiness in our own life. We want to be content with what we've done. So if we believe that we're all aiming for this common goal, right? This personal utopia, we can understand we have enough commonalities, that strong enough commonalities from a strong enough source of values now, right? Your values in life is what I'm talking about here, not like trading value, but your values in life will overlap with this good nature, because like the 10 Commandments, there are things you follow that in that sense is a trajectory for a good civilization. And we have values we create from experience that set the trajectory for a good life for ourselves. And then when you find that commonality in others, then you thus see their value now, the value of trade, right? You then see the value of what they have to offer, their experience, and then you can thus begin to have conversations that are more meaningful. They become about transactions. They become about, if you're in sales and want to think about it that way, it becomes about exchange, right? It's the exchange of knowledge, the experience, the history and future sight of the other becomes something that is a data point for you. It is an exchange. It is a transaction. So when you start to see everything overlap, then your music can start to become, it's a pretty big jump, but your music can start to become successful with people because you understand that everything is just an exchange. You're writing the song for your girlfriend. You're writing the song for the people. You're writing the song for yourself. And then it's more than just the music. The music is the summation of the experience. There's so much more to share. And then that's where the music becomes special, is when you start to teach, when you start to collaborate, when you start to step outside of just writing guitar parts and playing bass parts. You start to explore, you start to become influenced. And then it becomes the journey. That becomes the journey. That becomes the process. That becomes the meaning of life. So aligning yourself with that allows you to be more successful with your music because it's all a journey. As long as you're taking one step forward towards that goal, that ultimate aim that's greater than yourself, it's a good day. It's enough to praise yourself. And that's all you can hope for. So understanding these principles, the yin and the yang, the push and the pull, the trajectory that you have, the aim that aligns you with others, you will exchange. You will push, you will pull. There will be good and bad. And there will be yin and yang again. But I hope some of this helps. And the ultimate point is your music is an extension of yourself. The art, it's about the art. It's about the creativity. It's about the mind. It's about the expression of self. So the better you get at understanding how expressing yourself is simply a collection of all your experience summarized into your one voice, your one instrument, your production sound, your type of sound you go for your compressors, whatever you want to do, right? It's all in association with the sense of liking and ultimately what makes you happy, and that and thus is part of that trajectory towards your ultimate goal. Understanding your ultimate goal and understanding that it will ever shift and moving towards that with persistence will create a better mind for you, and understanding that the shortcomings and the strengths that you have are all part of your individual novelty, and that gives you a story, the yin and yang, right? The yang is the energy and the engine, and the yang is, or the yin is the intention, the good, and then the strive to run from things you hate is the engine, right? You avoid the thing giving you momentum, right? You dodge it, you have now movement, but your intention was to get out of the way and save yourself. The light is you're trying to sustain. You're trying to reach your utopia, your happiness. And the more that you realize this holistic view on things, the more you can align with yourself and start to express yourself in a very unique way, and do it in a way that people will appreciate because it comes from a place of a very deep self-understanding that educates others and gets people inspired to talk to you and learn more about you because it's interesting. And interesting is the name of the game for creativity, right? We're all here pursuing music because we find it infinitely interesting every time we hear a new song or a song that we love, where you hear a new part. It's all this experience. It's all the process of all of it. And it all overlaps. All of it. The process with creativity. And I want to go into some more like practical things you can do with all this information. So understanding more so that your aim defeats nihilism, gets you into a place of community, will generate your perspective, will create your engine based on societal norms and experience to run from, and then with intention and with the summation of your experience from others and just your own individual experiences, you create your intention, your yin and your yang. And then you can begin to start expressing that holistically because you've been to the dark side. You understand your fears. You understand why you're running. You understand what you're moving away from. And then you understand what you're moving towards. You need deep interpersonal understanding for that. And when you start to begin to explore that, you need to apply it and bring it outward. You need to talk to people about it. And music is a way of doing that. It is your journal. And that's why journaling is good, is because it helps you understand the yin and the yang. And so when you begin to journal, then and do it in an authentic way, you create something that is truly unique. And you think about it as that alone. There is no expectation. There's no, I need to make the best song ever. That's not how it works, for me at least. You could be Kiss and you just make your music so good that, like an engine, like a manufacturing plant, that you make money. So you can do that, but when it comes from a genuine place of deep understanding, not saying they didn't understand themselves, they probably did so well, such deep interpersonal relationship with themselves that they understood how to get there, right? That's how the successful are. But when you have that deep interpersonal relationship with yourself, where you can start to understand your own nature and what you're aiming towards, then when you sit down to be creative, it's more authentic. Gets more people inspired because then they can reach in and see your life, and you put more effort into it. But you can't have expectation of it because you're just starting, or maybe you're writing your 100th song. Maybe your 100th song sucks and 101 is the banger, right? You can't have expectation because it's all part of this process of ups and downs. So when you relieve yourself of expectation that everything you do is great, it has to be great, then it becomes fun. Then it becomes a journey. Then it becomes part of the journey, and you understand it's part of the journey. And it's just like life. There's ups and downs, and you just take the punches, and you fight when you need to, and you just respond as appropriately as you think that you can, and keep your aim. All for the aim. Every action you take should be all for the aim and done consciously, so that when you write music, you can do it all consciously and express your emotions through the instrument well. You explore. It's more important, I think, to explore than to have the right scales. It's an expression, right? The scales are a tool and a way for you to express, so they can be useful if that's what you're doing, and scales will get you there. A very good foundation of how to do that expression. So I'm not saying don't do scales, but like that's, if you're hammering scales every day and you're ripping it like Kiko Loureiro of Megadeth, you know, I think he's ex Megadeth. I haven't kept up with him in a while. Go Dave, go Dirk, Verbuin, Soilwork. Okay. So when you start to channel that into your instrument, you realize that those scales you're running endlessly to get super fast become less important. Like, what about your rhythms? Like, what about your drums? What about your collaborative nature? What about the way you handle your life? Like, there's a point where it's good enough, and you need to expand your horizons to understand how to better aim yourself. So if you stick in the void and practice your scales into infinity, it's like you've lost sight of the world. You've been under a rock, and I know that feeling. That's so. When you start to step out of that and realize that you don't have to be the shreddiest, you don't have to be the most technical guy, you don't, whatever the expectation is, you just have to be able to honor your intention and your ultimate goal. Once that's good enough, just do that. And then if the obstacle presents to you a challenge to get closer to your goal, then you go shred that part till you got it, and then what's next, right? It's not, oh, I could be even faster. I mean, if that's what you want to do, that's your calling. But like, you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that to be good enough. You're already good enough. Just do what you can. Like, you do with what you have, and you answer the questions that come up in the moment, in the process. And then that's how I work, is I don't practice really. Practice is every day. Practice is everything. Like, I just do it by doing anything consciously and understanding your intention behind it and what you're trying to avoid in the process. The failure will happen, but you're trying to avoid it, right? There's your yang. And then your intention is to do a good job and complete it. That's your yin. And it's like, when you start to understand that for everything that you do, it's all practice. It's all practice of the mentality of when you sit down and being okay with that you suck. And then you're going to get better. And then that creates a whole new practice session versus all of life being practice when you're conscious about it. It's all about the intention and just what motivates you. So then when you start to realize you do what you need. You do what you need to do to obtain that next step of your ultimate trajectory. You answer that question, then you just simply look for the next. That appears behind that wall that you just went through, around, up, over, under. And then that's how I operate. Is my practice is I gotta record vocals for this, so I record vocals. And then that's my vocal practice, is I just do it however many hours, minutes, days that it takes. That's how long I do it. And then that's my practice. That's my session. And then karaoke is great. So I align my life with things that I enjoy, but then overlap with my intention, which is vocals right now, and music production, songwriting, and teaching others. So, and philosophy, apparently. So when they start to, when you see them start to overlap, all these things that you do, it all becomes one thing. Like, then you start to see where that trajectory is. Like, seeing that my job of project manager, of organizing things, is like organizing a project in Cubase. It's about organizing my relationships with my girlfriend or my friends or clients. Me practicing vocals is like practicing guitar. I'm learning what the vocals would do for this part. So when I write the next guitar riff, I know how to make space for the vocals and thus become a better guitar player, or be busier with it if that's your intention. Like monuments, I love monuments. You learn how to be better at all these things by diving into different aspects of it. And you get this refreshing take. You get this refreshing drink of water where you're able to then step out of the 3-hour sweeping practice you've been doing on the guitar. And you start to have a wider perspective on things and give yourself a new intention behind what you're doing. And then when you sit down for your 3 hours of scales, you're excited for it again because you've been doing so many other things, thinking about what it's going to get you to do and where you're going with it. You have intention behind it. So there's a lot of things you could do with that. And I can go into more specifics about these things too, about really daily routine things that I would recommend. Not that I'm a perfect person, but I recommend these to myself. So hopefully I can do it too. But we're all human, so don't give yourself such a too hard of a time, Just enjoy the process. Love yourself. Understand that you can do that. You can love yourself. You're okay. It's okay to do that. And that will only get you even further in life. Love the process. That is the meaning. So hopefully this was helpful, and see you all next time.